All right, Nathan, we're back. You just talked about workout number one. Thank you for doing that. Let's dive into your second favorite, or I shouldn't say your second favorite, the other workout that you wanted to highlight today.
Yeah, so the next workout that I wanted to talk about, which is very marathon specific, and definitely person dependent as well. But my favorite workout, at least the one I did leading into the Olympic trials and went really well, was 3 miles at threshold, with a 1 mile break, and then 10 miles at marathon effort, with I think another mile break and then 2 miles all out. So yeah, so it was I guess to get into more detail, I think I did maybe a 2 or 3 mile warm up for it. Kind of got into it, and yeah, um, I guess maybe ask some questions that might be a little bit easier.
All right, so this is a robust marathon workout. I mean, this is an absolute monster. I guess the first thing that I'm going to ask before we dive into all this is this kind of on par from an intensity perspective as other workouts you're doing in the marathon build, or is this like an outlier kind of workout that really puts you to the test?
Yeah, I would say this is a final workout to truly simulate race conditions and truly test to see where fitness is at, so you can get a true gauge of what you might be able to pull off in an actual work or actual marathon.
Okay. All right. So after a brief warm up, 10 to 20 minutes or whatever, you're doing 3 miles at threshold, correct?
Hmm.
So we just talked in our previous workout about doing threshold repeats and the feeling of doing them at elevation and doing them at sea level. So I guess first things first, are you doing in the past, were you doing this workout at sea level or at elevation?
So we usually go down to Camp Verde, so it's like 3,000 feet. So you can,
Okay.
I guess, decide
Gotcha.
how sea level that is, but yeah, it's closer to sea level.
Okay. All right. So 3 miles at threshold. When you are done with 3 miles at threshold, what does that feel like? Because I would think that on some level, like that's already like a pretty intense effort.
Hmm. Yeah, so for me, honestly, if you're feeling good, you should be able to roll off of that without too many issues, especially if the
Okay.
build has been going really well. You probably don't want to, finish it thinking, "Oh my goodness, that was really hard," especially when you have another 10 miles straight of hard effort. So it should feel smooth. Maybe a little challenging, but nothing that doesn't roll off and get you ready for the next portion of it. So,
And we should say, so for you, 3 miles at threshold is approximately 15 minutes. I would think it would
roughly,
probably be more like 14. Okay.
yeah, like 1440s, somewhere around there, 1450. But yeah.
Okay. So then the mile recovery, describe that in terms of pace and effort. And then also, when does we also can, as we go through here, I don't know, maybe we should talk about fueling after the fact, or maybe we can talk about it during. But like, I'd love to know about this recovery mile and how fueling plays a part in that recovery mile.
Yeah, so for me, and then kind of just how McCurdy trains, so James McCurdy kind of operates is like he really wants us to intake fuel every about 5K. So lucky for me that that was within the recovery, which is a lot easier to take fuel when you're in your recovery mile versus like when you're doing it. Not to say that you can't, because you're going to be able to have to if you're doing a marathon, but it did kind of work out to my benefit, at least in that portion. But yeah, even in those recovery miles, it's not like, hey, you're lollygagging, you're not trying to get full recovery. You're just trying to get enough recovery so your body can reset and get ready for the next portion. So like, I can't exactly remember the times I hit, but I think I was right around 450 average for my first 3 miles. And then I think I was like a 6 minute to 6:15 mile for my recovery one before I got into kind of the next set. So
And that 6 to 6:15, if you're running at Cape Verde, would that be more? Would that be viewed as like, I don't know, easy plus float, or is that kind of like a typical easy pace?
yeah, I would say it's a little bit more aggressive than an easy effort. because again, you are trying to recover, but you're trying to do your absolute best to still mimic like what might happen in a race if you get a little bit tired. As you want to go as fast as possible and still be able to recover is the ultimate goal. So maybe you get in there and you went out too fast, or you're in the middle of a race and you're really tired. You might slow down, but hopefully you don't slow down past the pace you need to, type thing.
Gotcha. All right. So when the marathon miles then start up after that 1 mile recovery, again, we should remind people that you're doing this in the bulk of your training. So it's not like you're tapered into this workout, right? So you're already coming in with the accumulative fatigue of that week, but also the whole marathon cycle in addition to that, right? This is the kind of the capstone long run workout of that cycle. So talk to me about where your legs were, say, at the start of this 10 mile at marathon segment.
Yeah, so last time, so I did this workout last time I was in Flagstaff, and definitely training then and now was pretty tough. I think my body was just getting used to things. Again, James does a fantastic job of just prepping us and making sure we can hit the workouts when we need to. And so I definitely went into it tired for sure, but not like a, hey, I can't do this, but more like my legs aren't 100%, so we'll just kind of see how it goes type thing.
All right, so you kick off the marathon paced miles. Okay, you're diving into this. Talk to me about the route that you're choosing, how it's mimicking potentially, if or maybe it isn't the race course you plan on running, and then also who's around you. Is this a workout that you're doing with other people? Is this completely solo? Is James with you giving you encouragement? Like, what is the vibe of this workout?
Yeah, so we were very lucky because we go down to Camp Verde all the time and we choose the same loop. And we were just fortunate that that loop mimicked very well the course at Atlanta at the time, or not Atlanta, but Orlando. And so, yeah, it was just a great simulation race for that. Also, in workouts leading up to it, I had a lot of teammates with me, but I forgot whatever the reason. Maybe it was my pacing, or I think other people were doing different things. I can't remember, but I was solo for this one. But I did have Matt McClintock on the bike, and then I think James was there as well. I can't remember, but I do remember Matt. So shout out to Matt because he helped me there. But yeah, it was just kind of this like in my head, I'm like, hey, I need to get ready for the marathon. I might be alone, maybe during it, depending on how things shake out. So I have to be mentally tough, which I've been able to develop just from running in Michigan, where there's not a lot of elite level guys. So there's a lot of workouts and stuff I have to do by myself anyways. But yeah, it was yeah, just kind of a one of those things where I'm like, hey, let's get ready, let's test the body, and let's just get ready to push and see what we can do.
Talk to me about your mindset as you progress through these 10 miles in terms of, where you're trying to put your mind in terms of like being actively aware of what you're doing, or is it more like trying to zone out into the effort? How aware are you of how, like, I guess, like either your pace or how many miles you've covered? Like, I guess, generally speaking, talk to me about your awareness of exactly what you're doing or detachment from what you're doing during those 51 to 52 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. So like the biggest thing for me was when I'm doing stuff like that, obviously I want to be very present and aware, but ultimately I want to just be able to click off those miles without feeling like I'm working, which, obviously you're gonna feel like you're working, but you don't want to be like super glued to time. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm trying to hit 5:20 and that was a 5:21, so I need to pick it up. You want to be like very fluent. So, for me, I think I was hovering right around 4:58. Some miles would be a little bit faster, some miles would be a little bit slower, but it was all about kind of maintaining that effort and just feeling like I'm going to be able to get to the next mile. All that kind of stuff is kind of like my thought process, and I think how you should approach it. But I do know a lot of people really want to see the time and be like, okay, I got it done, and then maybe motivate them to get to the next mile. But yeah, effort-based stuff is definitely very big with me. So.
Yeah, and kind of jumping off from that point that you just mentioned, like, how much is there a motivation to and like workouts like this, whether it's this one specifically or other ones you've done in the past that are similar, in terms of like trying to like prove that you're ready for a certain time, as opposed to just running your current fitness level and your effort level, and talk to me like the middle ground there as well, right? Because you also want to be pushing yourself, right? Like this is, you're doing this workout, a hard workout, for a reason. So it's not supposed to be just, comfortable and gliding through, right? You're supposed to be working, really hard in this. Like you're, I mean, shoot, you're one of the best runners in the U.S. Like obviously you're testing yourself all the time. So talk to me about like that dichotomy of, not chasing fitness necessarily, but also making sure that you're putting in the effort that you need to.
Yeah, so like in the past, I went and I was very big on like, hey, let's force these times because if we can't hit the time, then we can't do it in the race. And I've just learned over time that is just not the way to approach it. Like don't get me wrong, like if you're in a mile race, you're in a 5K race, even like a 10K, like your pace matters. You know, you're on a track, you can be super efficient, all that kind of stuff. So the times you're hitting in your workouts, that is a reflection of what's going to happen in the race because you're so much closer to max end fitness and very small margins. But that is not the case once you start getting up to a half marathon, a marathon. It's 100% about feel. And yeah, it definitely took me some years to kind of understand that because, there's workouts I'll go into and I'll be feeling amazing and I'll push the envelope and it'll be faster than what the prescribed pace was supposed to be. But I come off of it feeling good and that gets me ready for the next race. And vice versa. There's workouts where I'm like, this is not it, and not feeling great. And yeah, I just have to slow down and be okay with that. Now, it's a little bit hard when you're also racing against, you're not necessarily racing against, but have teammates who are really high quality. You want to keep up with them, but you just have to be smart with that. So definitely kind of, again, effort based and kind of understanding where your body needs to be at because yeah, pace is great for an idea and a sense of what you might be able to hold, but you need to kind of throw it out the window when the race happens because it's more about feel and maybe those first 5 to 8 miles you can think about pace, but after that you need to be managing your energy and how you're overall feeling to truly get through the race. So.
Well, let's talk about the end. Talk to me about the last mile, mile and a half, 2 miles or whatever, and how that feels for you and how that compares, say, to like at a certain point in the marathon. Like, would you make a comparison to like, hey, the last 2 miles of this race feels like mile 18 or mile 22 or mile 14 for all I know? Like, how would you describe your feeling at the end of this workout, knowing that the whole point of it was running on tired legs. That's why you did the 3 miles of threshold at the beginning, and then comparing it to race day.
So yeah, are you saying like the final two where it's kind of all out, or were you saying like the
Oh,
last two?
I forgot about the final two and all out. This is how long this workout is. I can't even keep the whole thing into my head. Okay, so you're doing 10 miles at marathon, and then you're doing a mile recovery, right? And then
Yeah.
you're doing 2 miles all out. All right, I gotta wonder what is all out after all of this other work, because it's not
Uh,
like it's not like you're walking up fresh to the track at this point.
yeah, so like all out is like, hey, can you at all find a way to get to like something like 10K pace, right? And I vividly remember this workout and I remember telling Matt, I'm like, I am really, really tired. Like trying to like express to him that, listen, I can't even see how I'm supposed to go faster at this point because my legs are
You're
pretty
18
cooked.
miles into the workout. Like, you're like,
But he was just like, hey, just two more, let's just see what happens. And I'm like, fine, whatever. And so, once I got into it, it didn't feel good by any means, but I just got right back into that racing mindset. And I'm like, I have to finish, and kind of just willed myself through it and kind of got it done. And so, like, it definitely mimics that last, like, maybe 3 to 5 miles of the race where you're like, hey, I don't really have a lot left. My legs are tired. And it's all at that point like, hey, how much do you really want to finish? And how much do you want to hit the times you're trying to hit, the place you're trying to get? And so it's no longer, hey, am I holding this pace or not? It's, do I believe I can give what I have to finish this out? So,
So I have to ask, you've been running competitively for a long time. You are an unbelievable athlete. Your mental strength and fortitude, just like every other professional athlete, is unquestioned. With that being the case, how often do you need to sharpen that edge? Obviously, this workout does that, right? By putting you to the test at the end of a hard cycle, at the end of a hard workout, give it all you got. How often and how important is it mentally to do things like that, even for people at your level?
it is very, in my opinion, anyways, it's very important. Because the reality is, again, like a marathon, obviously, you don't want to be too far off of your goal pace, but at the end of the day, it's the effort that you're trying to put in and how far you're trying to push your body, right? I don't think anybody goes into a marathon just thinking, okay, well, we're going to get this in, we're going to hit our paces, and we're going to go home, right? I'm sure everybody, towards the last eight, whether or not you train like crazy or you're just a casual runner, is like, how am I going to finish this thing? And at that point, you're really tested on, how mentally strong you are, how fit you are, all those things. And if you're not ready for it, it's very hard to get through just because you got lucky. You're not going to like luck your way into the last 5 miles of the race. It's intentional and it's how bad you want it type thing. So any chance you get to test that outside of the race is really good because it's going to be able to be applied inside the race.
I love it. Nathan, thank you for sharing both your favorite, threshold workout and your favorite marathon workout with us. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that you are a new sponsored ASICS athlete. ASICS actually sponsors this show as well. So first of all, congratulations on the sponsorship. And what shoes have you been wearing, during this build and on race day that have you excited?
So I've been training in the Super Blast, which I think are awesome. So I've been a crazy big ASICS fan since like 2010. Honestly, pretty much solely the only trainer I have used, period. They changed around their models and stuff a little bit a couple years ago. So it took me a minute to refine the shoe I like, but I'm really enjoying the Super Blast right now. So, but yeah.
And I saw, some photos from race day, not just from you, but from other people as well. I did see like the colorway of the Metaspeed Sky and Metaspeed Edge. Not gonna lie, I did see the heel of those shoes. They look like prototypes to me, but I know that you might not be able to say that exactly, but I definitely saw some ASICS prototypes on that course.
You probably did, yeah. So obviously they're doing a lot of testing. ASICS, without a doubt, does not want to be left behind, and I have zero doubt they want to be in the forefront of the best shoe. I believe they are, obviously, but they definitely are continuing to work and figure out what's the best for athletes, and I'm just happy to be a part of that process. So.
All right, last question, especially from a racing perspective. I know they have the two options. They have the sky option and they have the edge option. For me, what works better for me is I have the sky racer. So I have the Metaspeed Sky. Paris, obviously, you're probably as a professional, you're working with prototypes and stuff that usually in a year or two in the future. But for you, what has worked better for your stride? The edge side of the carbon plated scooping or the sky side?
So I've been working a lot with the edge right now. And so like kind of how they break it down is stride length versus stride frequency. And so the edge is for people who just make their turnover a little bit quicker. And so I've definitely been enjoying that. I've not tried the sky as much as I should, but I'm definitely through these next 6 or 7 weeks leading into Boston, going to try both of them out and just see which one's the best going into Boston for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, Nathan, good luck in Boston, and thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Oh, 100%. Love the show, love to be on it, and just glad I can help out and make it good. So.